Hello, and welcome to my little capsule. This video is a small part of my tutorial series called Interactive Architecture, where I'll be showing you how you can make all sorts of different things with Unreal Engine. Today we'll learn how you can interact with objects in the most visually, well, let's say minimal way. Notice as I'm moving my camera, sometimes the little E button appears, and that appears only when I'm hovering over an object with which I can interact, just like so. So that's what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. Let's jump right into it. Okay, let's go. So the first thing that we need to do to make this whole thing work is create an interact button. Basically, any keyboard button that you press would act as a opening button for the windows, the doors, whatever have you. So I will go to settings, project settings, right here. This menu pops up, and here on the left hand side under input, I'll navigate to action mappings, under bindings, under action mappings. I will add a new action mapping by pressing this button right here. I'll name it interact, and in this case I'll just press this little keyboard icon here and then press my E key, E as in electricity, E, right? So this button right here enables me to kind of add any keyboard key or by just hitting it. That's much more convenient than trying to find the correct key by just scrolling down, but you can do it this way as well, that's fine. Anyway, now we have our interact button mapped. You don't need to save this, you can just close it, it's already here in our project. Then the interaction, like reading if the interact button has been pressed, that is handled by your character. Within your character blueprint. So under content, under third person blueprints, here you'll find your third person character blueprint. You double click that, it opens up your event graph as well as your viewport, all of these tabs. I assume you're at least slightly familiar with them. And in my character blueprint, I already have a toggle perspective action, where this is in the previous video, you can just check that one out. When I press the shift key, it toggles between the first person camera and the third person camera, but it's not about this. So now I want a new action, and that action is going to be, how did we interact, right? So I'll just right click anywhere on empty space on the screen, and I'll type in interact. And you can see here, input, action events, interact, that's highlighted. I just click it, and this little node pops in. So this node means that whenever we press the E button, the interact button, something will start happening, right? So what happens? Well, we need to, when we press the button, we need to make sure that we're looking at the object that we want to interact with, right? That is important, that we are looking at the object. So I'm going to create a node that's called Linetrace. And there's like a lot of different variations of this, but for us, we want Linetrace by channel. And we'll use the visibility channel, the looking at channel right here. I will not go deep into different channels and so on, just make sure that you're using visibility for this one, and you should be good to go. Okay, so when the interact button is pressed, line trace, meaning just a line straight from somewhere to somewhere, actually, not necessarily from your eyes, is going to be drawn, and it's going to check if it hits anything, right? So what we want to do is we want the line to be drawn from camera along the direction in which we're looking at, and it needs to hit, or it needs to check if it hits a door or a window or, I don't know, a table, so that you can kind of flip and flop them, so that the table or the door that was hidden interacts, right? Starts rotating. So I need the start of the vector of the direction and I need the end. So basically I need to determine the looking at angle, right? So to do this, I will get my camera in here and I'll use my third person camera, the follow camera for this, like that. And for that camera, I will get its location because that's where our eyes are. Third person camera, or set, no, wait, sorry, get, I'm stupid, get world location. There we go. We're getting the location of the camera. So that's where the start of our vector is. And then we need to get the end of our vector, which is a little bit more difficult, but somewhat easy to do. All we need to do is get world rotation. So to understand how that camera is rotated. And then from it, we can just draw a vector from that rotation. I believe it's forward vector, get forward, yes, get forward vector. There we go. And basically it's going to draw, according to how camera is rotated, it's going to draw a vector. The problem with it is that the vector is very small. It's just 1 centimeter long, 1 unit long. So I will drag off from here and I'll just type in the multiply button, or icon, not symbol, multiply symbol, this one, multiply, there we go, and I will multiply it by a value. In this case it asks me for a vector. I don't want to give it a vector, so I'm going to right click on this input here and I'll convert it to a float. You can do integer as well if you want to, but I'll use a float, single precision number. Float means it has digits after the comma. Integer means it doesn't have digits after the comma, right? It's full numbers for integer. So I'll just multiply it by, let's go for 10 meters. So 1,000 centimeters is 10 meters. Yeah, it is. Okay, so now we have a pretty long ass vector that's drawn from our eyes and ends here, right? So our start is our eye location and the end is the end of this vector. Okay. Let's change the draw debug type to persistent right here, or for duration if you want to, but I'll just use persistent. Let's compile this, save this, go back to our game and just press play and press the E button. And you can see that wherever I'm looking at, as I'm pressing the E button, I'm shooting these red things. And once they interact with something or hit something, they become green, because that's how Unreal shows you that it has managed to interact with something. And all of these lines are 10 meters long. That's the length of our vector, right? So we have our first component to the calculation, right? To making sure that we're only opening up stuff that we're looking at. Now we're checking if we're looking at. The problem is that once I change the, well, it still kind of works, but not really. Once I change the perspective, now it's not really hitting where I'm looking at. It's not really shooting where I'm looking at, right? It's shooting somewhere else. That's because it's still using the third person camera, even though I'm in the first person mode, right? So I need to go back in here and I need to make sure that it's shooting from the correct camera, right? It's using the correct camera right here for the Linetrace. So when the key is pressed, there needs to be a branch going on, right? Where just follow along. I will explain it once we do it. So we create a branch like that, and the condition for the branch. And for now, I'll just disconnect this so that we're clear of what's going on. So we press the button, and it can either go out as true or false. And the condition for that is us asking, is the follow camera, I'm just dragging it over right here, is the follow camera, is it active? Is active. Like that. Is it active? And I add it to the condition. Okay, so the way this works is if the follow camera, the third person camera, if that is active, then it's going to trigger the true statement here. And it's going to use the line trace generated here, right? Let me just drag these over a little bit. So it's going to use the line trace generated from the follow camera, clearly. But if the follow camera, let me just, if you click on the, if you double click on the line, you can then create this kind of a small little dot, and it just makes things cleaner. That's what I did here. If the follow camera is not active, that means the first person camera is active, that means it should shoot out from false. And all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take these, all of these nodes, Control C, Control V, copy paste them here, connect false to the line trace right here, right? And instead of using here the follow camera, instead of using the follow camera, delete, I will use my first person camera. If you're only using the follow camera, the third person camera, and you don't have the first person camera, then you don't really need to follow these steps. You don't need a branch. You can just straight up connect it to a single line trace. But in this case, we need to kind of decide, right? Which one are we using? There's better ways of doing this, but this one is visually the easiest to explain, I guess. Okay, so once this is done, let's compile, save, play, just to make sure that it works. E. Okay, in this case, wherever I'm shooting, that is indeed the, yeah, that's where I'm looking at. That works. And then for shift, if I, let's say I'm looking at the corner right here. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Corner right there. Yeah, that seems like it's doing the thing. Okay, great. I want to lock down the, how do you call it, the perspective, not perspective, aspect ratio of the cameras, but I will do that later. For now, I know that this works, and I will change this, both of these draw debug types from persistent to for duration. So after a while, they disappear, right? Later down the line, we will just not even draw them because we won't need to. Okay, so once that is done, then we need to create another statement. Okay, what happens when you hit a thing, right? When you're looking at something and you hit it. Well, you need to create a branch here. And you need like a condition, right? So condition is going to be the return value, basically saying I've hit it or I haven't hit anything. That's the condition. And for on hit, we basically need to read what was it that what we hit, right? So it comes out here, out hit. We need to break it, break hit result. We need to expand this, and the thing that we will use is called hit actor, right? Basically, it's once we look at something and we do the interact button, it's going to draw the line, it's going to check if it hit anything. If yes, then this is going to trigger, and it's going to always spit out which actor was it or which object was it from here, from the hit actor. button or output. Okay, now we need a way of how we can take this data, this information, and we need to transfer it to an actor, right? To an actor that has been hit. This is where it gets, well, not necessarily tricky, but where we need to do a little bit of shenanigans with a little bit more complex concept of blueprint interfaces, right? So the way we do this is we go back to our project, and we will just create, maybe under content, I'll just create a new folder, call it blueprints. Just blueprints, just my own little blueprints. Open that up, and here right click, blueprints, blueprint interface. We'll create this one, right? And I'll just call it, how do I call it? Interact BP, interact blueprint, right? It basically takes in information and lets through information through itself to other blueprints. So it's like a cup that holds information. Think of it this way, right? Inside of the BP blueprint, or sorry, interact blueprint, right here, there's really not much that you need to do. It just kind of reads the information and passes it through. So we're just gonna have it the way it is. The function that it's gonna use, I'm just going to rename it right here to interact, just to keep things consistent, right? So the actual function of the blueprint is called interact. That's all we need to do. We compile, we save, we close it, we never think about it ever again. It's just a cup, right? Back in here, back in our third person character blueprint, I will click on this class settings gear icon thing, and under under interfaces, there we go, I will add an interface, and I'll find my interact blueprint interface, interact BP. That's the name of the blueprint that we have just created. Bam, like that. Now, if I expand it here on the left-hand side, I will see my interact function, right? That's the function that we have created in our interact blueprint. So it's basically a cup that's empty, that's waiting for us to fill it up with information, or a cup that's full that is waiting on us to read the information from. Okay, so the interact blueprint, I'll just drag it in here. This function was not marked as blueprint capable and cannot be placed on the graph. Do we need to... 1 second, I need to think. I actually didn't need to think. I didn't need to do anything. I just needed to right click, type in interact, and access it through here rather than by dragging it. Interact with a message, right? Like this. It's going to have this kind of little post icon here. So, okay, when something is hit, then we read which actor was actually hit, like that, right? Easy peasy. Once this is done, I will just minimize this, right, to make it more compact, and I'll repeat it for my first person camera. Exactly the same process. Branch, condition, break, expand, interact. If it's hit, if it's true, then read what was hit. The functionality is initially the same. Compile, save, we're done. We're done with this setup right here. I will just select all of it, C as in comment, and name this interact with Linetrace. Oh, yeah, I wrote it here. Okay. Since this is done, I can compile this, I can save this, and now we can move on to our next step. So actually the next step is going to be us creating the door, and I will be creating something very... Whoa, this is lagging. What's up with that? I will be creating something very, very simple. Just a door that's... Oh, now it's alive. A single box that rotates for testing, and once we're done that, then we will get into here and we will actually make the... Let's see, the table open up, or maybe the window open up, something like that. So in terms of the door, I will access my blueprints folder right here, and here I'll just create a new blueprint from blueprint class right here, and it's going to be an actor, and I'm just going to say testing door like that. Double click that, and here you have your viewport of the actual blueprint. You have your event graph of what happens with it and construction script. We will not be using the construction script, but we'll be using the viewport and event graph. So in the viewport, I need an object here. So I'm just going to click on the add button, and I'll just find a cube, whatever, just a cube, something like this. Looks fine. And for the cube, I will scale it. I will scale it by... Well, not in X, or actually, yes, in X. So in X, I want it to be smaller, 0.5. Oh, make sure that this is unlocked. So let's do actually 0.2 by 1 by 2. Yeah, something like that. Seems to be okay. I don't really need it to be acting like a door or anything like that. All we will need is for it to just kind of rotate. So this is fine with me, just a big box. And then one more thing is going to be me adding a scene. So add scene, like this, scene. When I add a scene, you can see since I had the cube selected, it becomes parented to the cube, so it becomes a child of my cube. I don't want it, so I will just drag the scene into my default scene root and wait, attach. I believe it's, yeah, I'll just attach it to my default scene root so that it's not the scene that is a child of the cube, but rather the cube is a child of the scene. Why am I doing this? Well, that's because the scene is actually going to be my pivot point. Pivot. My pivot point. It's going to be a point around which the box will rotate. So I'm just going to, oops. I actually need to move it. This is weird, but I actually need to move it before I parent the cube to the pivot point. So I'm just going to take the cube, move it to default scene root, attach, so that again these are equal. All I'm doing is just creating a hierarchy here, right? And I'm just going to move the pivot point first. So that's the point, again F to zoom in. That's the point around which my box will rotate. And if the snapping is too obnoxious, you can always disable it right here, but I will use it right here, something like that. So that's going to be the point, and we're going to be rotating around the z-axis. Okay, once that is done, once I have moved the point, I will take the cube and I will move it back into the pivot point. And now you can see if I take the pivot point and I rotate it right here, the cube rotates together with it. That's the plan. All right, now it's on to event graph for us. So we will not be using any of these events that are already here. We don't care. What we care about is the interact event, right? The event that we used as what's the name? Oh my god, I'm stupid. I'm blanking out. The blueprint, the interact blueprint that we have created. Let me dock it here. That we have created here. That's what we're gonna be using to actually read, right? The thing that we're going to be doing is we'll go to the class setting right here, and we will add the interface, of course, because it needs to understand that it needs to use the interact interface that we have created. So under implemented interfaces, again, I find the interact BP, this one. Now it's added in, and now I can right click here and type in event interact. Wait, why is it not here? Hello? Yet again, I'm being stupid. All I needed to do, I forgot, too many things to remember, is just double clicking the interact here, and it literally just places the node for us. So you need to double click it, and then it works. Okay. Yikes. Anyway, so once we have this interaction going on, we need to ask if the door, or in this case, yeah, let's call it the door, the cube, or the door, is it currently open, right? And if it is, then it needs to be closed, but if it's not open, if it's currently closed, it needs to be opened, right? So we will be doing a branch here, and the condition is actually going to be, is going to be a variable, like that. And we will call the condition, the variable condition, F2 to rename. We'll rename it to just door open. Door open. If yes, then this is, it needs to be closed. If no, or rather, let's do door closed. Nah, let's keep it door open, sorry. If closed, it needs to be opened. If opened, it needs to be closed. Okay. Then we need to animate the opening of the door, of course, right? So does it open in a linear way, or does it open slowly at first, then it ramps up in speed and then slows down before it gets to the, let's say, 90 degrees? Or is it really aggressive? You can control that. Oops. You can control that in Unreal, which is very nice. But for that, we need a timeline. So from true, I'll drag out and I'll create a timeline. Add timeline right here. Bam. And let's call it door timeline. Probably misspelled that, doesn't matter. We have our play that is connected to true. I will, holding the control key or alt key, doesn't matter, I'll disconnect it, and actually true will go into reverse and false will go into play. Why is that? Well, that's because if door is open, then as the timeline plays, it needs to close, so it needs to go in reverse, right? So if door is open, go in reverse. If door is closed, then indeed go and open it. So play the timeline. We need to actually create the timeline now. So I'll double click on it. This is our timeline menu. Click on track to add a new track, and add float track. That's gonna be a float track. Like this. I'll call it door open track, and here I'm just going to create 2 points. To add key here and add key here. Doesn't matter where you add those keys, because we will be messing with them, right? So the first key is going to be at the time for it is going to be at 0. So at the start of the, animation 0. That's where it starts. And the value is going to be 0, right? No rotation. God damn it. 0 and 0. If you want to zoom into them, you will need to use these two little icons here, but that's later. So 0 and 0, 0. And the next one is going to be, basically we need to think how long do we want the animation to be, to take, and how much of an opening value do we want to have in degrees. So the time, let's say the door opens in 1.5 seconds, 1.5. This is for the second point, while the value is 90 degrees, 90. And now it's somewhere way off from our view, from our screen. So I'm just going to click zoom to fit vertical and zoom to fit horizontal, these two buttons, and now it's back on track, back being normal. Then this is too linear, so the door will just open up as if it has no weight to it. So we need to add weight. I will right click on my first node here, and I'll choose, rather than linear, I'll go for auto. Yeah, it's auto, isn't it? I think it's auto. Let's go for auto, sure. And for the second one, I will right click it and choose auto as well. So both of them have this kind of a curvature that you can also control with the handles if you want to, but let's keep it as default. This tutorial is already pretty long. Compile, save. Don't need to use the timeline anymore, so we close it. We have all that we need right here. Okay, so back with us playing with the door. I do need to set a rotation right now from this timeline. So it's going to spit out a variable here, the door open variable. There's going to be a number that's going to be spit out, and I will make a rotator from it. Make rotator, like that. And the question is, which axis do we rotate around? Well, it's going to be Z. Right? Because, yeah, I'm not going to explain that. Figure it out. It's going to be Z-axis. So we rotate around Z-axis, and we also will... so that means the animation is updating. So from this, I'll drag out, and I will say set relative. That's not how you write relative. Relative rotation. And it asks me for which. Is it the cube? Is it the default scene root? Or is it the pivot point? It's actually going to be the pivot point, right? We're rotating the hinge, and the cube is just going to follow. So that's why we created the pivot point, the actor there. And I just connect the return value, basically the rotation, to the new rotation here. We're almost done. Well, with this part. We're almost done with this part. The last bit is actually measuring if the door is open or closed. For this, we will need event tick. So we will be measuring at the speed of the processor. Well, not really, but let's just say at the speed of the processor, ticks of the processor, if the door has been opened or closed, which means that when this value, door open value, I'll just drag away from it. When this is larger than, let's say 1 degree right here, then this variable, door open variable, I'll just drag from it like that. I will set it. This variable needs to be set like so, to be opened or closed. Okay, if 0, that means it's closed. If it's even slightly more than 0, that means it's open, right? So if this is larger if this value is larger than 1, then this is true and door open becomes true. Okay, so if there is at least a single digit of an angle for the door, this will be true, and since this is true, then it's going to play the reverse, and it's going to, next time you press E, it's gonna close it. Yay! We compile, we save, we go into our little playground, we press play. We forgot to add the door into the actual scene, so let me just drag it in like that. Press play. And now I'm just shooting around, you know, nothing happens, but I shoot at the door and it opens, and I shoot at it again. Yeah, let me do it this way. And it doesn't close. Why? Oh, never mind, it closes. That was weird, that it didn't close properly. Also, my angle of shooting is very messed up. I will need to fix that. But yeah, hey, it works. It does open and close. Okay, 1 second. I'll see why my rotation is off. 1 second. Okay, I figured it out. So, like an idiot, I forgot to actually move the vector onto the eyes. So it kept being drawn from 0, 0, 0. That's one thing. So let's fix it. The way you fix it is quite simple. All you do is just to add the location vector together with your direction vector to get the correct end position, right? So I'll just drag off from here, and we're in character blueprint, by the way. Add these two, add it to the end. Now it's gonna work. Yikes. And do the same thing here to the end. That's gonna work. So if I compile, save, press play, we do need to actually, yeah, that's gonna be fine. E, you can see that now wherever I'm looking at, it's actually shooting. With this is gonna be easier. Why are you not displaying? Oh, because false is not connected to here. Compile, save again. Yeah, there we go. Directly in the middle of the screen, and which means that now open door, close door, open door, close door. The thing is that sometimes it doesn't really interact that well if you don't do one thing with the input action button, and that is the consume input tick mark here. So if this is tick marked, so you just select the interact button. If this is tick marked, consume input is tick marked, then you press play. And I'm gonna look at the door, interact. Okay, now it works. Okay, so sometimes it doesn't work. So if you have like a glitchy interaction going on, just make sure to check, you know, if consume input, that might need to be removed, unticked, right? And that's gonna fix it. Anyway, let's move forward. Now we have our kind of working system. The only thing that is left to do to make this whole thing work is get a little bit of a icon, a little bit of like press E to interact type of a thing. And for that, I will create an icon myself in Photoshop. It's not gonna be part of the tutorial because I'm sure you'll be able to do it yourselves, but it's gonna be like 20 by 20 pixels, a small little E right here. I'm gonna pause the video and start it again once I'm done. Okay, it's done. So I have created this interact E, a little button, 20 by 20 pixels in Photoshop. I can use literally anything you want to create that little image. And I have just took it, created a new folder called icons, and dragged it over into that folder. That's it. So now to actually push it on the screen, we need a blueprint, right? We need to create a widget, so to say, that slaps information for the user on top of the screen. So I'll right click here, user interface, and I'll just create a widget blueprint. Actually, let me create a new folder and call it in widgets. I like to keep things tidy. And then here, a user interface, widget blueprint, and the user widget is extensible by users through the widget blueprint. Okay, user widget, sure, like that. Once that is done, I will just give it a name, interact dot widget, something like that. Double click on it to open it up. This little menu, or not menu, but the widget opens. And here I will need to find a scene, I believe. 1 second. I need to check my notes. No, it's called canvas. Canvas panel. There we go. So I'll take it and I'll drag it down into this. Oh, sorry. I'll drag it down into this widget. So now the canvas is created. And then besides the canvas, I can go in here, find my icons. That's in the main file, folder, whatever. Under icons, I have my image, and I believe if I just drag it over to my widget here and just slap it in, yeah, that works. That works just fine. So now with this added, you can see canvas panel and image 0 is here. With that added, I will go for size. So I'll determine the size that is 20 by 20. That's what I created. And for position X and Y, I actually need to anchor it to the center. So this is the center anchor. You can see here. And you will notice that even if I zero them out right now, it's still not centered properly, because it uses the top left corner as its anchor. So I'm just going to, if it's 20 by 20, then X needs to be -10 and Y needs to be 10. Nope, also -10 to be centered. Now it's right in the middle of the screen, no matter the size of the screen. Compile, save, we're done. So this is already good to go. You know, a little icon that's gonna pop up. I'll close this. I'll go back to my character blueprint and I will implement it. I will make the widget show up on our screen every time when we are looking at an object that we can interact with. Should it be on the character or should it be on the door itself? That's the question. It should probably be on the character, right? Anyway, at least for the character, for sure, for the character, we will need to event begin play when we begin play. So we'll need to kind of continue on with this logic here. I'll drag it up. We need to create the widget, right? For within our character. So I will say that when we begin play, we will set our follow camera as our active camera. That's the first thing that we do. So follow camera, I'll just drag it in here and I will set active. Set it as active. No, that's stupid. Let's do that later. Sorry. Let's do that later. Instead, let's just create interact how did I call it? Widget. Create widget. Create widget. And for the class, we will find our interact.widget, like that. Okay, so it's created. It's not pushed on the screen, but it is created. And we will set it as well, I believe. I wonder if we should. Okay, so let me just make this into a variable. So you right click on the output and you set it as a variable, and I'll just name it interact.widget. Like that, right? So we create it and we set our interact.widget as this variable as our widget variable, which means that now we can control its appearance according to us either looking at stuff that we can interact with or not looking at stuff that we can interact with, right? So that's what we're going to be doing now, switching that appearance. So to do so, we need to constantly measure the which view are we looking through. Is it the first person or the third person? And also what we're looking at. So this little icon right here, or not icon, node right here, which is interact button that we have, the E button, that doesn't work anymore because it only measures when we press the button. In this case, it needs to be real time, so we use event tick. And with event tick, it's going to shoot out the line trace at every frame of our animation. So I'm going to use Linetrace again, Linetrace by channel, and I'm going to basically it's gonna be the same process as here. So honestly, what we can do, this might be not a good idea, or it might be a great idea. What we can do is we can optimize this. So I'm going to show you another way of how you can optimize for two different cameras. For this, you would need to create a new variable and call it active camera variable, right? Like that. Wait, there we go. And the active camera variable needs to be a camera component. So you go here, camera component, expand that. Oh, come on. Again, camera component, not cine camera, just camera component, object reference. So you get that. Then this active camera will be able to switch, and I'm just dragging it over here and saying get active camera. This active camera component will be able to switch between first person camera or third person camera depending on which one is currently active. How do you write into it which one is currently active? Well, it's here where we have our functionality to switch cameras. Again, if you're not familiar with this script right here, check out the other video that I've done, link in the video description of how you can get this to work. Holding the shift key to switch the views. But basically after we set the cameras to be active, then we can also say, just 1 second, I need to double check. Yeah, so since first person camera becomes active here, then my active camera is gonna be set to be the first person camera. Get that? So I set active camera and I get first person camera, right? And vice versa, right? If my follow camera is active, then I set my active camera to be my follow person camera, which I can't find. There it is, follow camera. Get, like that. Bam. So this variable that we have created will now flip-flop between the two cameras that we have, depending of the toggle, right? One little problem that we will need to fix in the near future is that at the start of the play of the game, it's not going to have any input, so it's gonna be empty, and this is gonna freak out because of it. But we will fix it quite easily, so just don't you worry about that. Anyway, from here on out, it's pretty straightforward. It's the same process as what we've done here, where we got the world location, rotation, vectors, multiplied, and added them up. So I'm gonna do that real quick right now. Get world location, get rotation, world rotation, get forward vector, multiply by a float. I believe I used 1,000. You can use like any large number and add these up. So that's a plus sign that I used. And the location is the start, the added vectors are the end. And now we have a line trace with debug mode set to for duration for now, right? If I press compile, save, and press play here, you'll notice that only after I press the shift button does it start tracing where I'm looking at. And now it's gonna keep tracing, but let me escape. And there's a bunch of errors that's gonna pop up, that's fine. But when I press play and I don't use the shift, it doesn't trace. That's because, and again, a lot of errors. That's because at the start, active camera is not set to anything. So this is none, so the line trace cannot work. That's why we get all of the errors. How do we give active camera a camera from the start of the play? Well, that happens under event begin play, right? So we have already this whole chain of events that are happening, but in between in between our widget and the mapping context, between these, I will add the set active camera. So I'll just drag from this set active camera. I'll add this like that, and I'll set it to my third person camera or follow camera, like that. Now if I compile, save, press play, immediately it reads my third person camera, and if I press shift, it reads my first person camera, and so on. So the line trace works, and it's hitting exactly where I'm looking at, right? E. Great, that works as well. And once I hit escape, no errors. So this little thing solves it. Okay, back to the line trace. So if we hit branch, if we hit something, then we need to one second. I need to think about this one. So if we hit something, if it's true, then it needs to check, of course, what it hit, break hit result. It needs to check what was hidden. So we get the hit actor, and we will ask, does the actor that was hit, does it implement the same interface that we're using here, the interact interface? I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but that's how it works. So I will ask the question, does implement interface? And which interface? Well, we only have one, so that's gonna be easy. Interact. Not interact, interact BP, this one, interact BP. I'll minimize this because it's a little bit too much. So this will return a value of yes or no. So if it hits an object and that object that's being hitten says that I am using the interact interface, you can interact with me, basically, then something needs to happen. Let's create another branch. Branch, like a logic. So if all of this is true, then it needs to be added to viewport, right? But what if it's already added to viewport? It shouldn't be, we shouldn't keep adding it to the viewport, right? Every time, because we're just gonna keep overlaying the same image over and over again. So I need to ask, is the interact.widget also, like one more statement, I promise, this is the last one. Get interact.widget. Is it already in the viewport? Is in viewport. And if we're hitting something and the thing that we're hitting is an interactable object and the viewport, okay, we need another branch, and the viewport is indeed already shown to you, like the, sorry, not the viewport, but the little E icon is already shown to you, then do nothing. You don't need to add another one. But if it's not, then you need to add to viewport. How is that? Viewport add. Okay, fine. Interact.widget, that's the widget get, and I'll just draw from it. Add to viewport. There we go. Add to viewport. So if it's false, if it's not being drawn right now, it's going to be drawn once and then nothing else is going to happen. Okay, so we have that logic of putting it on the viewport and making sure that it doesn't keep being drawn at every frame. Then for, if it's false here, it should be removed, right? Where else should it be removed? It should also be removed here, I believe. If we're not hitting anything, it should be removed from the viewport because we're not looking at anything. And also, oops. And also if we are if we're looking at something that you cannot possibly interact with, that also needs to be removed from the viewport. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just drag from here. I'll create another branch. Bam, like that. So both of these statements need to go in. So this false and this false, both of them go into this, because if either one of these trigger, then it's going to remove. Then if it's already in the viewport, if it's not in the viewport, we're checking if it's not in the viewport, then there's nothing to remove. This doesn't matter. This will not trigger anything. But if it's true, then it needs to be removed from viewport. I need to remember, I think it's like remove from parent, or we can drag from here. Remove from parent, there we go, and connect true to here. This seems right. This logic seems right. Okay, let's compile, play, and just check. Yeah, okay, let's escape and go in here and make sure that draw debug type, that is set to none, because damn, that was a lot of lines. Compile, save, play. Yeah, there we go. So as I'm looking around, nothing happens, and then bam, E. nothing, E, nothing, E. And then as I'm looking away from it, E disappears, right? Same thing with this camera, E. Okay, that's great. So now if I press E, yeah, that works. Perfect. We have ourselves a logic. Little bit of a logic here. I'll just comment this and call it show E, like that. So now compile, save. Now let's finish this off by making one of the objects that I have here in my viewport interactable. So I'll maybe either a desk or a window. Let's do a window. Why not? Let's do a window. So I'm gonna close the door blueprint here, and I'm actually going to go into my blueprints, and for testing door, I'll right click and I will duplicate my testing blueprint, and I'll call it Nakagin or just, yeah, Nakagin window BP, like that. Nakagin window blueprint. Double click that, drag it over here, like so, easy peasy. And here I'm just going to delete the cube. I don't need a cube. I will need a pivot point, but that's later. I'll make sure that my default scene root is selected as an active object, and then slowly I'll make this smaller, by the way. Just drag off from it. I'll go back to my viewport and slowly add the elements that I want to be part of my blueprint, right? Like geometries. So as I select something in my blueprint here, I can see it being selected in the outliner, which is very nice. So I'll just right click, select browse to asset, like that, and just drag and drop it in to my little component tab here, like this, right? Let's look at it in the viewport here, so that's easier to kind of understand what's going on. And my viewport speed is very fast, so 2. So okay, here's my rubber for the window. I'll also add the frame, which is brep. It's just brep, so I'll just add that. Easy peasy. Bam. The handles, those need to come in. Wait 1 second. Yeah, that's fine. The handles, that's brep 7 and 8. A little bit inconvenient because they're right there, but should be fine. And drop them in. Is there anything else that I need to fix? Not really. I mean oh yeah, the glass is, which one is it? Let's switch from lit to unlit. Try to select, am I selecting the glass? Oh, I am. I'm already selecting the glass. So that is gonna be brep 4. Great. brep 4. Bam. So I have myself, yeah, you can see here the problem that we're having. Those are the handles, and everything is kind of just pushed onto the center point. That is because all of our location data is lost when we are doing this. So replacing an object is not as easy as it might seem, but it's not so hard. So the way you do it is you just need to find, okay, so brep 3, what's the location of brep 3? Here I will just find where brep 3 is so that I have it selected, and here I have its coordinates, right? In my viewport. While here in my blueprint, the coordinates are at 0, 0, 0. So all I need to do is just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with every single object here. It's a little bit boring, but you only need to do it once, and once you have set it up once, then your dynamic object is done, right? You can just make copies of it, and you won't need to redo this, and it's literally like 30 seconds to do so, so it's not that bad. Okay, that's done. brep 8, that's done. Typically you don't need to rotate anything since if you're using Datasmith, because all of the rotations are usually brep 4. There it is, because all of the rotations are already zeroed out by Datasmith. But since this is Datasmith, we do need to use the coordinates like so, which is done at this point. We have them here, and you can see our little handles here. They still don't have a material attached to them. That's fine, we will fix it. And then there's the pivot point, right? The pivot point around which it should rotate. So this is why I always suggest having a point in your Datasmith file, or before exporting your file as a Datasmith file, creating a point here. If you can't do, if you didn't do it, that's fine, because we can go back into Rhino, in my case, and we can create a point and read the coordinates from that point. The coordinates should match, even if you're in millimeters in Rhino and you're in centimeters in Unreal. I'm gonna show that really quickly. So here, let's zoom in. That's the point that I have used to export, right? But you can easily create a point by yourself. Again, let's center it. There we go. Select that point, type in what, and you get the coordinates. Keep in mind the only coordinate that you will, and this is in millimeters, so it needs to be, the way I like to do it is Notepad, and just move the dot by 1, move the dot by 1, and move the dot by 1, like that. The only thing that you will notice, now let me go back to Unreal, and with this point selected and with the coordinates added from, or not added, but these coordinates from Rhino, just checking the coordinates here against here, you will notice that the only difference between Rhino and Unreal now are that the Y coordinate needs to be inverted. So if you're reading the coordinates from Rhino, you will need to flip the Y coordinate. Besides that, it's the same numbers, right? So you take those numbers and you slap them onto your pivot point. Easy, easy peasy. That's it. You compile, you save, you have your Nakagen window blueprint. Without materials yet, but that is fine. I'll just dock it here for a second. Everything is in the correct position, and it should work, by the way, because the event graph, well, we should rename them probably. Let's rename. Door open, I will just rename it to window open. Door timeline, I'll rename it to window timeline. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just these two. Save. Back in here, let's actually add the blueprint. Where is it? Bam, like so. That's our blueprint. I'll just have it outside for a second. Maybe here. Press play. Here's my window. E to interact. Oh no. Okay, this is not my day, I guess. It's not my day. I guess you're screaming at the monitor right now, but yes, I did forget to actually take all of my B-reps and parent them to the pivot point, right? So even though the pivot point was rotating, since these elements that I had in the window were not parented to it, nothing happened, right? It didn't rotate anything. So holding the shift key, you select all of these and you just drag them onto your pivot point like that. Now, if I compile, save, play, shift and hit E, voila, opens up and closes. For some reason, slowly. Bam. Bam. Okay, so that works. That works great. We don't really need to do anything more with this, except for some reason. The interaction is a little bit slow, but it might be because I'm recording. I will double check and just see if I didn't miss anything. Yes, I did miss a thing. So, in our window blueprint, under event graph, the timeline, when you double click on the timeline here, even though we're using 1.5 seconds of animation, the length of our track is actually 5 seconds. No. That means that once it finishes, it keeps on going for another 5 seconds. No, we don't want that. We want it to be 1.5 seconds here as well, so that they match up. So yeah, that's a small little thing that I missed. Compile, save, play. E. Yep. Open, close, fully interactive. Nice. So now back in here, I will just add the proper materials to this. So this needs to be glass. You add it here. You select the object, you add the glass instance. Then if I remember correctly, this is gonna be metal light, that and that, both of these, or actually let's do it one by one. Also metal light, metal light, this is gonna be rubber, and I think that's all of them, right? Seems like it's all of them. Okay, compile, save. Now back here, the window is nicer. Keep in mind that the Linetrace sometimes does not like the glass. Seems like in this case it works just fine, but sometimes it goes right through the glass. Doesn't seem to be a problem right now. How do you place it in the correct area, right? Instead of this window. So first of all, I will need to delete. Delete the objects here that I'm replacing, like that. And then back here, we already have encoded the placement of this object when we were adding the XYZ coordinates. So all we need to do is for location, we set it to 0, 0, 0. So if you zero out all of the location values, now it is placed in the correct space. This is like a nice little bonus. Let's press play, shift, look at here, open it, close it. Beautiful, right? That works. The intersection between the, oh, come on. Oh, now it stops. Yeah, you can see that like the collisions and so on also work. Yeah, as I said, like the if you press it hard enough, the collisions stop working naturally, but they do work mostly. You can see here that the transparency is messing us up, and that is because behind this glass element that we have, there's another one. There's another window right here. So that double ray trace glass is not, let's say, not that beneficial for us in this case, but as long as you just hit the frame, it's gonna work just fine. Great, now we have it. That is that. We're done with the tutorial. I'm going to spend some time making the desk interactive, making the door the door interactive, and yeah, that's about it. One thing to note is, if you want this file or all of the files that I create, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You get everything, literally everything from me that I show on the channel. And yeah, next up is gonna be playing with the character. That should be fun. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.